Hey there, and welcome to this deep dive,
Yeah.
where we're tackling a question you specifically wanted answered. Why all the howling from your furry friend?
Get ready to decode those canine conversations because we're about to uncover a whole world of communication you never knew existed. You know how it is.
Oh, yeah.
Your dog lets out this mournful howl, and you're left wondering, are you okay?
Right.
Are you in pain? Is that dinner conversation? But here's the thing. Those howls aren't just random noises.
No.
They're rooted in thousands of years of wolf ancestry, a direct line to the wild.
It's fascinating, isn't it? Imagine wolves howling across vast distances, staying connected with their pack. That's their long-distance communication network, crucial for everything from coordinating hunts to defending their territory.
So are you saying my dog thinks they're calling their pack across, like, miles of suburban sprawl?
Well, not exactly. You see, while dogs inherited the howl gene from wolves, they've adapted it over time. Domestication has led to some interesting variations. Think of it like this. Both dogs and wolves speak the language of howling, but they've developed their own dialects, their own reasons for striking up a conversation.
Okay, that makes sense. So it's not just about channeling their inner wolf. What else are they trying to tell us with those howls?
That's the million-dollar question. And honestly, we haven't fully cracked the code, but our sources point to a few compelling theories. One is that for dogs, howling is often a social call, their way of saying, hey everyone, I'm here. Almost like checking in with the pack, even if that pack is now you and the mailman.
So my dog is basically the neighborhood town crier.
Yeah.
Hear ye, hear ye. Sparky is ready for belly rubs.
You could say that. But there's more to it than just announcing their presence. Dogs howl for a surprising variety of reasons.
No.
They might howl to get your attention, especially if they know you're the type to come running with treats. They might howl to communicate with other dogs. They might even howl if they're feeling anxious or stressed. It's really a whole spectrum of emotions and motivations.
Wow, it's like trying to learn a whole new language. But at least now I can appreciate those howls a bit more, knowing there's a reason behind the canine chorus.
Absolutely. And understanding those reasons is key to figuring out how to respond to your dog's howls in a way that's both helpful and, let's face it, good for your sanity. Because let's be real, a howling dog can test even the most patient soul.
So how do we decipher the canine howl? Is there a way to tell if it's a hey, I'm here howl versus an I'm bored and I need attention howl? Asking for a friend
Mhm.
who may or may not have a very vocal canine companion.
That's the tricky part. Context is key. Pay attention to when your dog howls, what's happening around them, and what other behaviors they're exhibiting.
Right.
For instance, a howl accompanied by pacing and whining might indicate anxiety, while a howl that starts the second you pick up your car keys, well, that might just be a strategic plea for a ride.
Ugh, the classic take me with you howl. I've definitely fallen for that one a few times. But what about those attention-seeking howls? The ones that start up the minute you sit down to enjoy a cup of coffee?
That's where things get interesting. Our sources emphasize the importance of positive reinforcement. If you rush to give your dog attention every time they howl, you might inadvertently be reinforcing that behavior. It's like accidentally teaching them that howling gets me what I want.
Oh, I see.
Yeah.
So instead of giving in to those operatic pleas for attention, we should ignore them.
Not exactly ignore, it's more about shifting their focus. One of the sources we dug into suggested using those moments as training opportunities. Think of it this way. When your dog starts howling for attention, calmly wait for a pause, even if it's just a split second of silence. That's your cue to reward them with a treat, praise, or a quick play session.
So it's about rewarding the quiet moments, not the howling ones. That makes sense. But what about those more persistent howlers? The ones who seem determined to serenade the neighborhood? Our sources mentioned something about desensitization and counterconditioning.
Exactly. For dogs who are particularly prone to howling, these techniques can be incredibly helpful. Desensitization is all about gradually exposing your dog to the triggers that set off their howling, but in a controlled and positive way. Let's say your dog goes wild every time they hear a siren. You could try playing a recording of a siren at a very low volume while engaging your dog in a fun activity, like playing fetch or offering them a special chew toy.
So they start to associate the sound with something positive instead of feeling the need to howl the house down.
Exactly. It's all about rewiring those associations. Counterconditioning takes it a step further by teaching your dog an alternative behavior to howling. For example, you could teach them to go to their bed and lie down quietly when they hear a triggering sound, rewarding them for their calm behavior.
It's like giving them the tools to cope with those triggers in a more positive way. I can see how that would be helpful, especially for dogs who howl out of stress or anxiety. But
Yeah.
you mentioned earlier that some of this howling behavior is rooted in their DNA. So how does that play into all of this?
That's where it gets really interesting. Remember how we talked about dogs inheriting the howling gene from their wolf ancestors? Well, some breeds have held on to that instinct more tightly than others.
Like my friend's husky. He sounds like he's composing an opera every time a fire truck goes by.
Exactly. Breeds like Huskies, Malamutes, and even Basenjis, those with closer genetic ties to wolves, tend to howl more frequently and intensely. It's like that ancient form of communication is still deeply embedded in their DNA.
Whereas those newer breeds, the ones who've been hanging out with us humans for a while, they're more likely to bark than howl.
You got it. It's fascinating to see how domestication has shaped their vocal repertoire. Over time, as dogs became more integrated into our homes and lives, barking likely became a more efficient way to communicate their needs in a closer knit social group.
So barking for that quick, hey, I need to go out message,
Yeah.
and howling for those deeper, more primal calls.
Precisely. Although it's not quite as clear cut as that, some breeds have developed unique vocalizations that blur the lines between barking and howling. Take hounds, for example. They've got this amazing sound called a bay. It's this deep, resonant, almost musical bark that they use while hunting.
It's like the canine equivalent of a yodel.
So, after this deep dive into howls, it's clear we shouldn't just dismiss them as noise. They're a glimpse into our dog's inner world, a way to connect with their wild ancestry, and a reminder that even though they've traded in wolf packs for couches and kibble, they still carry that ancient language within them.
Beautifully put. And who knows, by paying closer attention to those howls, their pitch, their intensity, the context in which they occur, you might uncover even more nuanced layers of meaning. Each howl becomes a clue, helping you better understand your dog's emotional state, their needs, and the unique ways they communicate with their human pack. It's like learning to speak their language, one howl at a time. I don't know about you, but I'm feeling pretty inspired to listen a little more closely to my furry friend. Who knows what we might discover? Until next time, keep those ears perked and those tails wagging.